Greetings, Andy here again, and welcome to day 16 of my Advent calendar countdown of favourite albums. So here we are today, number 9, and I've got a double header. Now, I've mentioned several times coming along, through this countdown so far, what a great year it's been for female singer-songwriters. And today we have two of them, and one of which gets my Female Singer-Songwriter Album of the Year award. Both these albums came out at the same, I bought them in the same month in May. And I've sort of switched slightly. The first is from an old favourite, wonderful singer, and that is Beth Gibbons and her album Lives Outgrown. Now, back when this came out, I would have guaranteed this would have been in my top 5 of the year, and I think it was in the halfway stage. It's not diminished. There's just been a lot of stuff I slightly preferred during the second half of the year, and somewhat surprisingly, a new find for me. I've actually come to the conclusion I prefer slightly marginal, and that is Adrienne Lenker and her album Bright Future. I had to look at that, I couldn't remember. I'd not heard of Adrienne Lenker before. Well, I think the name was vaguely familiar, but knew nothing about her. Singer with the band Big Thief. This is obviously a solo affair, and I've just so enjoyed listening to it. It's been on in the car a lot. I tend to, listen to quite a bit of music in the car these days, so that's the digital download. This is what I said about both of these in May, and bear in mind at the time I probably would have had Beth slightly ahead of Adrienne, but at the end of the year I've got Adrienne slightly ahead of Beth. So here's what I said for both of these albums back in May. So let's start with what I think is the big one for this month, and for me quite an important one. And I'm talking about Beth Gibbons and her new album, Lives Outgrown. Beth Gibbons, obviously Portishead, wonderful singer. This is her first album for slightly over 20 years, and it's very good, and I'll come to the detail of it in a minute, but let me start with her previous album, which was with Rusting Man. It was Out of Season, Beth Gibbons and Rusting Man, and there is a connection between this one and this, not least obviously because it's Beth, and I have to say this is more reminiscent of this than maybe her Portishead work. Oh, not surprising really, because she's grown up. But the link I'm going to make is Talk Talk and another band called, if memory serves, O Range, because Rusting Man is otherwise Paul Webb, who was the bass guitarist in Talk Talk. And in here, she's got two really important collaborators and some others, but two who are central to it and could easily be jointly mentioned. Though this is is Beth Gibbons, not Beth Gibbons and. But she's working on this one with Lee Harris, who was the drummer in Talk Talk, so she's working with the rhythm section of that great band, and apparently I don't remember this, but apparently when Talk Talk disbanded, Paul Webb and Lee Harris formed a band. I think it's O Range. I should have written it down. And Beth Gibbons worked with them a bit, and she was at some point going to be the singer with it, but then Portishead took off, and so she did a bit of collaboration, and obviously they've remained friends. And the drumming on here is really interesting. At first sight, it sort of seems quite simple, but actually it's not. It's far from it. There's quite a lot of timpani, kettle drum use. So, well, to my ear, it sounds like kettle drum. And it's almost as if on some tracks the drumming is playing the part of both the percussion and the bass in a way, the bass line. But But perhaps really core to it is a guy called James Ford, who is no relation. Now, James Ford is the producer of it, of this album, but he's also a multi-instrumentalist and plays hugely number of different instruments across every track on here, including on some parts a bowed saw. Now, James Ford is a well-known producer, so he's the sort of producer of choice for Alex Turner of Arctic Monkeys, and actually James Ford actually was part of the last Shadow Puppets, which was one of his side projects. And similarly with Damon Albarn, so he has produced both Blur and Gorillaz, and his own band was a band called Simian Mobile Disco, which you may have heard of. And musically, this is fabulous, but obviously it's all about Beth's voice, and she has apparently been gestating this for some 10 years or so, been working on it off and on. It's not an upbeat album. If there's a theme, she's written all the lyrics and sings them. If there's a theme, it's about sort of aging, being a bit shit is the way I would describe it. So she sort of sings about, sorry, I've got some notes here because there's lots of stuff to do. One track, love, sort of the way love loses its spark and becomes perhaps a bit ordinary. Obviously the loss of people, loved ones. Even she sings about the menopause, apparently, and I read that in a review. I haven't sort of spotted that, but then I'm a bloke and wouldn't notice, would I? But despite the fact it's sort of slightly relentlessly, if I say miserable, that gives completely the wrong impression, because it doesn't take you down. The singing is beautiful. The music is really, at first sight, at first hearing, you think it is relatively simple, but it's far from it. I was going to say it's quite complex, but the review I read, which was in the Sunday Times, called it sophisticated, and that's probably a good way of describing it. It never plays second fiddle to Beth's voice, which it could easily have done. So it's musically a really good album, very well made, very well produced by James Ford, and who is playing most of the instruments. Great percussion from Lee Harris on there, and of course Beth's voice, and she has, and there's some orchestration as well and the usual stuff. But the backing vocals are done by Beth's kids, so I think she's got 3 kids. They're in their teens and late teens and 20s, and they actually sing the backing vocals for her on a number of tracks. So this is really, I have to say, is my album of the month. It is superb. I have played it a lot during the last month, and it's how many tracks are there? It's a classic 10 tracks, 5 on each side, single LP, and it's this one is just on black vinyl.
I'm floating on a moment, don't know how long. No one knows, no one can stay. All going to nowhere. All going, make no mistake.
And it's another female vocalist, but entirely different, sort of almost a polar opposite of Beth Gibbons' album. And I'm talking about Adrienne, I'm not sure how she pronounces it. Adrienne, not Adrienne, Adrienne Lenker. Now, she's new to me. I've not really heard of her before. But she's been around a while, and I think this is her 5th solo album, and she's also the lead singer in a band called Big Thief that I've, again, never heard of. She was born apparently in Indiana, in Indianapolis, but moved as a child to Minnesota and grew up there. But she sounds like she comes from much further south. you know, her voice is sort of like Americana, but the music is far from it. It's really simple. It's very simple music. Just you know, in the background to her singing, just piano, some acoustic guitar, either or usually, and then sometimes a fiddle. But it's really her voice and her lyrics which come across. She articulates those lyrics really well, with great clarity. There's no mumbling or murmur or anything in here. It's always right at the fore, and the music is really pared back and so simple, but in a really positive way. Let me just check my notes. Yeah, so as I say, it's real sort of almost polar opposite to the musical sophistication and sometimes subdued singing from Beth. The opening track, which is called Real House, is like an ode to her mother, and she sings it really from, and she does sing it, not narrate it. Though there is an element of narration in the subject, but it's almost a bit like a poem. But she's singing from the heart. It's almost like a conversation with her mother. She's singing to her mother. Do you remember? She says several times, and she's reminiscing about events during childhood and how her mother was always there for her, and how growing up her mother was an important person. And you know, it goes on. The whole album is just so beautifully sang. It's another one I can listen to over and over again, and it's just entirely different. It's not my usual fare. I mean, I do like a bit of Americana, but it's much more laid back than I would usually you know, listen to, but I absolutely love it. She's got such a brilliant vocal voice, and if you like sort of singer-songwriter, folky, should we say folky? It's folk really rather than Americana. If you like really good quality female singer-songwriter, then this is one to have a listen to. So, and again, it's where are we? How many tracks? It's this one's 6 tracks on each side, so it's still a single LP. Have we got any inserts in here? There's obviously the oh, there's a, yeah, I thought there was an insert in here. There's a little sort of mini poster of her there, and sort of family members and the like, plus obviously lyrics on the inner sleeve, and it's just on black vinyl. As I say, a really lovely one, and quite unusual. So
You and I both know there is nothing more to say. Chance has shut her shining eyes and turned her face away. Leaning on the windowsill, you could write me someday, and I think you will. We could see the sadness as a gift and still.
So thanks for watching that, and please come back tomorrow, and we're well into my top 10 with my number 8, and it's another old favourite tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Cheers.